Well, let's go ahead and get started. Are you guys ready to rock and roll here?
Yep.
Awesome. Just leave it the way it is, and I
Testing
can.
weights for no one.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I want to welcome you guys to our Journey podcast. I'd like to thank Soleiana, Phil, and Natasha for joining us. Um, we're going to be focusing on equine therapy, on uh, more specifically for Doya Natsu. And maybe would like to start out with Soleiana. Why don't you explain your definition of what equine therapy is, and maybe give yourself a little introduction?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Soleiana Abernathy, and I practice equine guided empowerment, somatic reprogramming. And so, this particular way of equine therapy is to empower the person to find their personal power and to come into respectful relationship with the horse. And horses are relational beings. And what I'm teaching folks is to come into right relationship with the horse out of respect. And then also in their own personal grounded power. And so teaching people how to ground into their own nervous system to feel safe in their body. And from that safety, that's what we build the relationship upon.
Amazing, awesome. What's some of your background, Soleiana, led you into horses?
Horses have saved me over and over in my life. What a couple years ago, how I got into the equine guided empowerment is it basically cracked me open to my developmental trauma. And from there, I've spent the last 3 years delving into my attachment wounds and how horses basically developed a healthy attachment to horses early on. They were a lot safer than my own mother. And from there, they have carried me over and over to find my own power and my own joy and ease in life.
Very, very good. It's always amazing how our own personal healing happens, and then we can just transfer that to other people from the healing that we have. I appreciate that work that you do. Um, Natasha, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and give your explanation of equine therapy?
Okay. Hello, my name's Natasha Nesbit. Horse therapy to me, I guess is a type of therapy that involves individuals that get like physical and emotional healing from horses. And usually there's a mental health person working with an individual who's also there working with the horse. And they may have a mental health condition or disability, and they may face an emotional challenge. And so with that, they engage in activities like grooming, riding, or simply just spending time with the horse. And then they're supervised in those activities, and then they gain, um, some benefits out of that, some growth emotionally, some growth, spiritually, some growth, confidence, trust, and things like that, stress reduction, and just a lot of benefits personally. So, yeah, that's what my definition of that is. And there's lots of activities you can do to improve those skills.
How did you get into horses and being part of equine therapy?
Well, so my background is more like I grew up showing horses and doing lots of different kinds of disciplines. So I got an extensive background in that. Then I also went to college and got an equine degree just in training. So lots of versatility in that. So I've shown a lot. I think emotionally, horses just growing up in a real rural place, I think that's where it benefited me the most emotionally. And that's where I think partnership in a horse and like trust building and actually work ethic for me is where horses really came in clutch in my life. So
All right.
yeah,
Good. Very good. Yeah, you got to be on a good schedule to take care of horses and
for sure. It
train them.
teach you life skills, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. And then Phil, why don't you go ahead and explain like your goals of um equine therapy and what Doya Natsu is looking for and how it helps the youth at Doya Natsu and the adults or whoever. Why don't you go ahead and explain how you organize and would like to see the horse program?
Well, good morning. My name is Phil, and I work here at Doya Natsu. And we've been working with the horse equine through Soleiana with the Boys and Girls Club that we had initiated. And so far, it has gone good. So, but we're looking forward to continue doing what we were doing last year. But before I go any further, I mean, what horses mean to us as a native people, and we all know that horses are are a good healing that we were taught from generations to generations. The stories that I was shared with, and I know a lot about all the stories, the songs, and how they are connected with Mother Earth, the air, and Father Sky. Their body parts that represents like the rain, the thunder, the hoofs, where they connect themselves to the ground, where they hold that moisture to the ground from with the clouds and the thunder. Those are the type of things that we were shared with, and we already knew that there were healings. There were healings that we get from horses. And they used to say that, the old folks, they used to say, when you are lonely and if you're around horses, they'll bring happiness, they'll bring a good energy to you. So always treat your horse with respect. Don't just run your horses, take care of your horses. That's what we were shared with. To this day, I don't think anybody talks about it, but I got all those stories in my head. So if anybody wants me to talk about horse stories, I mean, I'm more welcome to share those stories.
Right.
Yes, horses have been a healing element to us Native Americans, and then there were our transportations. To this day, even though I drive a vehicle, I consider my vehicle my horse. The way I talk to my horses, that's the way I talk to my vehicle when I'm on the highway these days. So I'm still connected in that way. So I just want to share that story with you guys. So thank you again.
Good. Awesome. We also have two co-hosts here, and I'd like to introduce Bob, also known as Horse Eater, which is kind of ironic today.
Yes, sir. It's not a
Yeah.
bad name. It means survivor. Is
No,
what it
go ahead,
means.
share your background, brother, and share the how you got that name, Horse Eater.
Yeah, right on. Thanks, Marcus. Yeah, Bungudica means horse eater. When I was born, I had a very difficult birth. Sort of flipped upside down, and one arm came out. I had the umbilical cord wrapped around my neck. Took them several minutes to get me from purple to pink, and there was a lot of crazy stuff that happened at the hospital when I was born. I have a hard time telling the story because it sounds like nonsense if it's coming from me. But my auntie and my mom do a pretty good job of telling it. But they had an inmate at the hospital there from the Honor Farm broke loose, led the cops on a high-speed chase. My auntie's house caught on fire. Back then, they had, the swamp coolers, and you had to put water in them manually, and she didn't fill it up, and it caught her house on fire. And there was a bunch of crazy stuff going on. And so Verl, my uncle, was like, well, he don't want to die. So he named me Horse Eater, which means survivor. Um, and that's where it came from. But
Right.
I grew up with horses. We had 16 of them when I was a kid,
Mhm.
and that was my responsibility. So being around horses, and then pack trips and the whole thing, and riding them and breaking them too. We used to get the wild horses from the wild horse race and break them. And so my grandpa was more or less, he was like a horse whisperer. He could get any horse to trust him and just love the heck out of them right away. So I sort of modeled his teachings, and yeah, it was a great early part of my life being around horses. They're a very vital component to Native people and our survival when we were back in them days when they were
Right.
hugely important. If you didn't have a horse, you were done.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
I think I
cool.
sent you an article a while back, Marcus. I can't remember her name. She's a Lakota, but she had discovered, prehistoric evidence, archaeological evidence of horses being here in North America long before European contact. And she did a whole giant dissertation with the University of Alaska. I think I sent it to you a while back, but I'll find it again and send it to you. It's pretty interesting stuff. So kind of,
Awesome. I'll have to check it out. Go ahead and send it on over. Um,
yeah.
Christian, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself as our co-host? I know Christian's been in co-host training for a while. I think we probably bump you up to just host now.
Nice. Thanks. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
You can hear me? Okay.
Hope so. You're in the
Um,
same room.
yeah.
No,
I'll
I'm
talk
just
about the
playing.
task cam. No, but I'm Christian Lopez. I'm Marcus's co-host here at the Doya Natsu podcast. We've been doing this for a few months now. Getting the hang of things. Today's the first day. We actually had some technical difficulties. I don't know why, but Bluetooth's not wanting to work for us. But yeah, just a brief introduction.
Cool. Well, thank you, Christian. Christian also works with Boys and Girls Club. He's works with the youth there. He's a young father. He's pretty BA dude there on the Fort Washakie community. Let's jump back over to Natasha, and why don't you share some of those activities that you've done before with um, equine therapy, more specifically working with Native youth. I know we had our GONA just a little
Yeah.
over a year, just a little over a year ago. Why don't you share some of the visions that we had there, some the activities and how it helps the members there.
Yeah. And actually, we can go way back and talk about our New Day days too,
Right,
because, we had a really cool thing going there. And what I think really works is just the common idea of respect. um and was it Phil talking, talking about, how to you treat your horse, and how you treat people, that common theme of respect. And so approaching that, no matter what we're doing, is kind of how I do everything. And so that has to happen before we even walk out, to the pen with the horses or anything like that. But I teach from the minute, you're approaching the horse to a high level of riding. So but it all starts with respect. And so they're
when
learning all kinds of things, like
when you
approaching the horse with respect and with a calm body and things like that. And then the basics of grooming and building that relationship with their horse, and haltering and learning about equipment. Man, and then the parts of the horse, the anatomy, all
Hmm.
the things about horses, and the connection starts to build. And to me, that's therapy in itself. And it happens just without even having to talk about it. It just
Yeah.
happens organically. And then they start to, as they learn, they start, building and then, getting more advanced. And then that's horsemanship. And
Right.
so they're building on their own horsemanship, and that's what that is. And then they're getting higher levels, learning how to saddle, learning what those parts of the tack are, and being able to do higher level things as they learn. And they learn levels like horsemanship one, two, three, whatever you want to call it. And through that, Marcus and I, he was out there with me too. I was doing a lot of the horsemanship teaching, but then we would go in and we would do crafts, and Marcus sang with them, and it was just a whole thing. And we saw a lot of kids really blossom. And so I think the testimony of those kids and seeing just how they grew was the magic of it. I
I
heard from one of my ex-students. Do you remember Hunter?
yeah.
He went to the military and reached out and said he'd love to be able to go ride a horse again because it changed his life. So hearing that as a former student, that's amazing. So
Yeah,
yeah,
we worked with a lot of what they call at-risk youth.
yeah,
And one of the things when I was growing up, horses is what really saved me and kept me in
yep,
the home I was in. The group homes I lived in had horses, so I was very fortunate. But I know as I got to learning and learning more and more about horses, I was fortunate to have someone come in that actually knew correct ways on how to
exactly.
work with horses. Because as a res boy, sometimes we're just taught to go grab a horse, jump on it, and go, let it buck and break it.
Right, right.
Whereas I think Soleiana, you were talking kind of about how natural horsemanship or how you work with them naturally. Maybe you can kind of explain a little more about that, Soleiana.
Yeah, relational horsemanship. Basically, like right coming into contact with the horse, um, you're you're sensing the horse. How's the horse feeling? Is it calm? Is it nervous? As you're grooming it, are you grounding yourself? Are you calming yourself? And so it's building up that relationship with trust and respect. And from there, you like I work with the kids at the group home at the Children's Lodge, and as they build up their skill set, uh, they groom the horse, they make contact with the horse, and then they build upon that relationship. And so then they take them out leading the horse. And as they're leading the horse, I'm guiding them to like step into their own power because that horse is making contact with the energy that's with them. And so, if a kid's looking at the ground and not really paying attention to where he's going, the horse doesn't know what to follow. And so, I encourage the kid to step into their power and to look up and to look at where they're going and to own their direction. And through that, the horse learns to respect the kid and listen to the kid. And then I'm asking the kid if, do you sense that the horse is listening to you? And if they say yes, then we go on and we build upon that skill set and we go make courses that they like lead the horse through cones or different courses. And then from there, if they want to try on riding, they learn how to saddle and tack the horse. Um, and then they start riding the horse. And when they're on the horse, I'm asking them if they feel safe, if they feel their horse, if they're listening to their horse. And I'm encouraging the kids to get into their instinctual body so that they can be sensing their horse because the horse is sensing them from that instinctual place. And so we want to get on the same level of the horse. And when the horse has a reaction, I explain to the kids the horse behavior. The horse is always listening. The horse is always feeling. They're always sensing for safety. And so the more the kid can feel safe in themselves with the horse, they're sharing that safety with the horse. And the horse reciprocates that safety to the kid of literally that kid is trusting that horse to carry them. And so I have them focus on that sensation of being carried, because that is what can build healthy attachment. Going through something hard, the horse spooks and coming out okay. And they realize the horse never has a malintention. And that they can go through something hard with another being and come out okay. And so I'm just trying to help them build healthy attachment and for them to say it feels safe and secure with that horse. And so that relationship is built out of respect and safety over and over and over. And so we're just building upon those skill sets.
That's a beautiful connection that can happen, a very healing connection. And I like the way that you can relate that to how they live their lives. You know, they have a little microcosm there to be able to trust and to be able to exude love to another living being. Whereas that child or that person never had that opportunity before. So I really like the way that you say that, Soleiana. Where people wouldn't like, I always use myself as an example. My early life was so crazy and insane that there would never have been an opportunity to feel that type of connection with another human. But when we can feel that connection with an animal, then it allows us to be able to build upon that and grow and hopefully make that type of connection with other humans and have that forgiveness, I guess, from the trauma of the past, like you mentioned with the having that connection with your mother. So many of the children that we work with that are at risk, they lose that connection
Yeah.
because of trauma, drug abuse, alcoholism, whatever it may be. Maybe they didn't have their parents there emotionally, or
Yeah.
so that have that opportunity to connect. Another great thing that I wanted to get back to Phil, unless you had Soliana, do you have anything else to expand on that?
I mean, I could go on and on. I do
I
have
hear you.
something to relate upon, like with addiction. Every addiction comes back to unmet need. And so I'm when we're interacting and making contact with that horse, I'm acutely attuning to that kiddo and making sure that their needs are met in the entire process. And I think that, like you said, if they have a moment where they can trust another being, whether that's
Yeah,
horse or me being a facilitator, and I see that they're getting anxious or scared, and if we can take it back to them being able to feel safe in their body again, I think it's just building block upon building block of building that safety and trust where they can trust themselves again.
right. Amazing. Yeah, that's it's very good. Um, Welcome, John. Good to see you. John's one of our therapists here at Doya Natsu, and I know he had a Zoom group this morning, but I'm glad you're able to join us, John. We have Soleiana, we have Natasha, who are both our equine therapist ladies that came and did our GONA last year. We also have Phil. Um, I wanted to jump back over to Phil, and I wanted you to kind of explain maybe a little more about, because it's really interesting when people hear about the cultural aspects on what the horse means. And you touched on some of it as far as the representations of the natural world that are represented within a horse, like the four directions, the tail, whatever that tail represents, whether it's rain or that connection. And within a lot of cultures, there's a lot of different stories. I was I was reading a script one time about a movie that we were going to make, never did come out, but it was called The Winds of Heaven, and that's an Arabic expression of the winds of heaven is the air that comes between the horse's ears and hits your face while you're running. But that's they call the winds of heaven. But I know within our own culture, maybe you can explain a little more about what that horse represents, if you remember some of the representations, or maybe even a story you can share, Phil.
Okay. Yeah. The main tail at the main tail, that hair, they say that represents the rain also, and it carries the lightning. So the horse that we're talking about is owned by the thunder. So that's the reason why they say that you don't cut the hair on a horse, because you're cutting their energy, their connection to the rain, because they're the one that really brings the moisture to everything on this Mother Earth. And and then the hair above their head, the neck, it also that is controlled by the wind. They say that if the horses out in the wild, you'll see their hair all tangled up. And they always told us that's been fixed by the air people. Don't mess around with it. Leave it. Leave it as be. Because the healing that they talk about, that we don't talk about, they are healings. If a person is going through a lot and they are connected to the horse, they will get that healing. That's what we were told. So there was a lot of things that we never messed around with on a horse, especially those hair, what it represents, the hoofs, you know. And the main thing is take care of the horse, treat it with respect. If you abuse your horse, they will know. They'll be afraid of you. You're gonna you're gonna shorten their healing power. That's what they used to tell us. So, and I truly believe that. I think so, because if we do that, we're not going to be in harmony ourselves. We're not going to be in balance, because we are hurting one of the most living things that's on this earth, that's going to heal us. So that's the one that I really want to emphasize. And you know what? It is a good thing that we are doing this horse equine with little kids, and we share these stories with them, and then they'll learn something, because a lot of our young generations are not brought up around these horses, because these days we don't really use horses. We just let them be. We just let them turn wild, and we don't take care of them. So we have made our own culture where we are imbalance. We're not balanced no more.
Right.
And that's the reason why we're turning back to this horse equine, the horse riding, the horse culture. And we share those little stories with these kids these days. So here at Doya Natsu, that's what we offer here during the summer. So that's another short little story that I want to share with you guys. So thank you again.
All right. Thanks, Phil. Appreciate that. John, why don't you jump in? You have anything you want to share about equine therapy?
Yeah, I was excited to hear about your podcast for equine, and I had worked in a residential program years ago, and equine therapy was a part of our program. So once a week, we would take our clients out to the place. The guy that did the equine had the horses, and we would meet in a circle and sort of do a check-in, and then he would explain, well, we're going to do this, and then we'd get up and go do the activity. And he had a bunch of different activities he did, and they were all designed to teach people certain things and learn about this relationship with the horses um, and then what it would teach people about themselves and others, and it was just incredible. I think as a therapist, I could just see it working and see the magic in it, and yeah, I do have several stories about that. I think one in particular was that really was powerful. Is that there was a few veterans that, and this is a story that he told us. He said he had these veterans come out, and none of them had a familiarity with horses or grew up around horses or anything. And he said that the veterans all walked out into the center of the arena, and they were just standing together and talking, and just what's going on, what are we going to do? And he said that that the horses, it was, and if you've been in the arena with a bunch of horses, this is something that is maybe a little unusual, because horses tend to do their thing or stick together, or one will be a little more difficult than others, and one will be super friendly, one will be real kind of spirited and running around and stuff, and they'll do their own thing. And when these veterans walked out there, all the horses just came up to the veterans and put their noses on them and put their heads against them, and they just stood there just in silence. And I think horses just have this thing about them, that is a spiritual connection. It's and I think in some ways it's a lot like that movie Avatar, when you connect with their animal, and I believe that horses do that in real life. You can connect with a certain horse, and that connection has something to do with an attraction that you have with that animal, and you maybe match their personality, and it is sort of like this magical thing that happens. But people are often drawn to the horse that matches their personality and their
Right.
behaviors and all that, and
Yeah.
so yeah, it's an amazing process to see, and it teaches you a lot about your personality too, because you can see that horse and how they act, and
Right.
something about it that, yeah, that's
Well,
that's
you bring up a good topic about horse and personalities and character. Do you see that, Natasha? About because horses are just as different as people, right? With their different
Yeah, for sure.
characters and personalities and all that.
Yeah, in teaching and stuff, and having, a group of youth and then a group of horses, and knowing my youth and knowing my horses, a lot of times I would already know who to pair up with what, what
Hmm.
horses, but also it's a good lesson too, to teach them that, like, um, with the approach and things like that. And you can give an example, like if you're gonna be a more high-strung person and approach the horse that's already maybe a little more high-strung itself, you're gonna have a clash, right? It's they're both gonna be that way, but if you take yourself and be calm, you're gonna help the horse to be calm, and those kinds of things. And you can create activities around those things, and mold those types of activities to show students, the lesson, and to work on whatever goal or whatever thing that they're struggling in. You can create those lessons and those situations for them to see that purposely. And it's pretty cool. It's like magic, so
Yeah.
uh, for sure, always calm though is the way to go, and teaching them that from the get-go, and that goes with the whole approach and grounding that we've mentioned before. So yeah.
So I know that, and you said you have a degree in equine. I know a lot of
Yeah.
us, we ride horses, we get to know them, and maybe some people work with horses most all their life. But what is it in higher education that you learn versus not going to college, or what helped you, and what is it about getting a degree that what inspired?
So, I think it's the grit, it's the heart, it's the want um to do it, right? And how bad do you want something, and how bad do you really love something? And I've loved horses and in the competition and all of that in itself, but then to take it to the next level is a whole other thing. And also, I did a double major. So I'm in education and equine. So to get a horse training degree and a teaching degree together, at the very same time was a challenge. And, equine is like being in a sport, but also having the classes on top of it. And you've got vet classes, it's not just go ride horses and have fun and all that. It's
Mhm.
very, it's tough. And the teachers were tough and all of that, but it taught me, you love this, but also it's hard work. And I wanted to take that passion and keep on living that the rest of
Right.
my life, and maybe helping kids
Yeah.
someday, which I'm blessed and was able to do that, or even clients, adults, which I was able to do that. And so it's just blessed me in my adult life. And I think I was trying to see the bigger picture. And I think the grit and love and passion that I had got me through it. And hard
Yeah.
work, consistency, and all that just is what
Yeah.
you have to get through that. But
Right.
there's all kinds of things that you have to do in your degree. Like, I'm more, I did the jumping, equine jumping in the English. I had to rope, steers, and I had to, do the Western pleasure. All the versatile things, a little bit of equine therapy,
Mhm.
judging, so very diverse. So it's just been all pretty cool. So
Right. I
go
appreciate
on
you.
and
I-
on.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
appreciate you sharing that because I know that some of our listeners probably don't know that you can take it to another level as far as your equine
for
education.
sure. And if kids are, at all inspired by that, they need to know that they could go somewhere with that, and that could be something that they could possibly do after high school.
Right. Right.
So, yeah.
Otherwise, otherwise it's just fine if they just stay home and work with their horses. And there's plenty of people out there that don't have degrees that are just as qualified to train and be
Yeah.
horsemen and all that. But I really like the idea of that being available for our young natives that they can further their education specifically in equine therapy.
And there's also, I went to a 4-year college, but there's a lot of 2-year colleges that you can get an associate's. So there's a variety of things you can do in the equine field.
Is there
So
anything available at Gillette
yes, there is in Gillette and there's in Riverton.
or
So
Riverton? Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
They have that big equine, a brand
Yeah,
new
that is a
equine.
beautiful facility.
Right.
Beautiful.
Right.
So
Soleiana, do you have anything that you would like to say to kind of put a closing on working with the horses and what you and Phil kind of see in the future for Doya Natsu's horse program?
Yeah, like with Kelly's support and Phil's support, I see continuing with the Children's Lodge, serving those kiddos once a week. And then we'll probably start up with the Boys and Girls Club once the weather gets nice again. And with the Boys and Girls Club, it's fun. It's a lot bigger group. And so I'm able to facilitate the group exercises of really getting the kiddos to sense into their bodies, those boundaries, and come into that instinctual self. And so, yeah, I look forward to continuing to help them. And I know Kelly has big visions and plans for their land and continuing to have horses to support people.
Right. Awesome. Let me see. Christian or Phil, why don't you put a closing to yours? I don't have Christian and Horse Eater.
Phil
Say a
stepped
few.
out.
Oh, Phil's
Phil's
out.
had to depart. Yep.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Christian. Put a closing.
All right.
Say something amazing about horses. Change our life by what you say.
I think the biggest takeaway I have is just the fact that horses are very therapeutic, and I think the only personal story I can put my finger on is during quarantine, during COVID times. Um, I went to Browning with my cousin Riley, and um, the Spoon Hunter family kind of just took me in and adopted me in like a native type of way, and I consider them my blood family. That's how close we are nowadays. But yeah, on they live on Badger Creek, so that plot of land, that whole strip of land, if you ever been to Browning, is just pure beautiful, and that's all we did during quarantine was ride horses, and that was like the first time in my life I ever rode horses. And before that, like during that specific time, I could say that I was going through a lot, and it helped me mentally cope with anxieties and just really center myself and just allowing to trust the horse, like Soleiana was saying, and it was a different experience. And after that, I just loved horses, and so much that I wanted to actually pursue having horses one day, and I kind of drew away from that just because of life. But I definitely have that in the back of my head, wanting to own at least a couple horses, a few horses, down the road somewhere. But yeah, very spiritual mammal that is highly respected in our culture for a lot of reasons, and yeah, very sacred being, you could say.
Right. Awesome. Excellent. I appreciate you, Christian.
Thank you.
Let's Rob. I know Christian and Rob are kind of our co-hosts in training. So why don't you put a sum up to what people were saying, Rob, and help us out here.
Sounds good. Thanks, Marcus, everybody. Man, I tell you what, I went to the Rudy Herbst School of Western Wyoming Ranching. That was my granddad. And like I said, he was a horse whisperer, man. He had no fear. He sold man and he'd go walking around behind them. And we had some pretty, wild horses there for a little bit. I wouldn't consider any horse to really have bad behavior, but just, questionable. They are like us. They have, you know, traumatic
Trust
memories and
trust
things going
issues.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was one of the big things as I'm hearing everybody talking, because they're spiritual animals.
Mhm.
I used to kind of refer to them as like big dogs,
Yeah.
that you just end up riding, and they really are incredible animals. And that was one thing my granddad taught me from the very beginning. Was the first thing is don't show any fear. Get your fear away and trust them in order to earn your trust no matter what happens. And I've had some pretty wild situations on the back of a horse. I've been tossed in the air. I've been pinned in the, chutes, I've been on some wild rides with them. A couple of them that we had, like I said, when the BLM used to have that wild horse race, and everybody could
Right.
go out and gather up a horse for just a couple $100, but you had to put pretty much everything at risk to go get them things. And
Yeah.
anyway, so yeah, I see them as deep spiritual animals, and very they're connected in ways, all animals are,
Right.
that we have to tap into, because we have a conscious mind and we think and we get ourselves out there. But one of the things that the healing properties, I think for me, one of the big things about, no, because I too, like you, had a phew, wild upbringing, and my grandparents ended up having to take over and raise me when I was 11. But one of the first things that I realized when Grandpa was waking me up at 4:35 in the morning to go take care of him out at the shop was that when I was involved with them, whether it was saddling them, whether it was calling them in, whether it was shoeing, any of that stuff, my mind was right there. I was in the present. I was locked in the now. I wasn't thinking about all the chaos in my life. It was because you have to be, focused, and that sort of goes with anything. But I noticed that, pretty early on. It was like, wow, when I'm, messing around with the horses and doing things with them, I'm not thinking about all the hugs I didn't get, or the bad words that were hurled my way, or the beatings, or any of that. I was focused on the horses, and I don't know what it was, but I think Creator wired me in a way where fear don't really enter into my thinking. So at
Yeah.
first it was more nervousness. It was like, okay, I didn't know what to do, and I didn't want to do the wrong thing. But after watching Grandpa, around all these horses, he'd go walking around them, behind them, smacking them on the rear end. My grandma used to get so scared. Rudy, don't be doing that. He'd go in between them, things that you just don't do. And they never once, you know, reared up at him or tried to kick him or any of that. They just loved the hell out of him. And so I modeled that. And after a while, it just sort of sank in with me, and found that it was a great environment to be in. And I looked forward to it. I
Right.
did. I looked forward to it rather than feeling miserable having to wake up as a young kid early in that morning and go out and take care of them. And sadly today, after that spinal cord injury, I don't really have the trunk control to really get on them and ride again. In fact, where I'm at now would be more or less a death sentence, but it's still fun to every once in a while get around them and approaching them and
Right. Right.
feeling their energy, letting them feel mine. It's
Yeah.
a powerful experience, I think.
Yeah. There's more to working with horses than just riding, right? I
Mhm.
mean, you can definitely be a horseman and not ride a horse.
Mhm.
And that's what this type of education that we're teaching our youth, and not only our youth, but I believe our equine therapy is open to others besides just the youth. Um, as soon as we get a schedule for the summer, we'll get it out on our website. I want to appreciate and say thank you to Soleiana for joining in on our podcast. Natasha, we appreciate you also joining in.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You bet. John, thank you for being here. Do you have any closing comments or anything you would like to say?
Well, I'm glad I got to join late, but it's good to hear this information and see it get off the ground. Um, I think that it's important, for us to remember our connection to the horse and to learn as much as we can about it. Um, the relationship and what it's all about. I think that it's a part of it's something that is a part of our heritage and understanding the history of how we got horses and that the fact that we had actually indigenous horses also in America is important to understand that we had a relationship that went even further back than colonization
Mhm.
and our invasion and myself, being multiple tribes, I know that all of our tribes have different stories and that relate to the horses, and especially as having Comanche heritage and blood. It's pretty important that we understand, our history, and I always felt that that was an advantage I had just being Comanche because we were that's a important part of our story. That a lot of tribes don't have that background with horses that we do, and so yeah, there's a lot to it. I'm glad to see it get off the ground. Like I said, I kind of prefer the iron horses myself. As a Harley rider, so
Cool.
I'm in a little different type of saddle, but uh, it's just as therapeutic as a horse. So
If you,
yeah,
what is the name of your motorcycle?
I've got Big Blue, and I haven't named the other one. So.
Oh, I wonder what Phil's car, what he names his truck, since he talks to it like a horse. We're gonna have to give Phil's white truck a horse name.
Yeah,
Yeah.
War Pony.
His war
Call it
pony.
should have bought a Ford.
A rolls canardly. Rolls down one hill, can hardly make it up the other. Okay, you guys triggered my corny joke button now.
There he is,
Yeah.
folks.
All right, I'll close with one horse joke. This horse walked into a bar, and the bartender said, "Why the long face?" Yeah.
Yeah. No new
Oh,
material, huh?
I love our
No.
native sense of humor.
Awesome. Well, I just want to end with horses are beautiful. Horses they give hope. They especially when you're not feeling well, you go around horses, it's automatically going to lift you up. They're positive, loving beings, and I appreciate all of you for being part of this podcast this morning. And hopefully, we can all jump in again in about a month or so and talk some more about equine therapy. Thank you, Natasha. Appreciate you being part of this. Thank you, Soleiana. Thank you for being part of this, and our co-hosts, and John for joining in. For our listeners, stay in touch and check out our other podcasts. All right, thanks, guys. We'll see you later.
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks, Marcus.
No.
Everybody.
Yeah,
Beat you.
zombie. You hey.